Om Shanti, and a very good evening to all of you. I trust all of y'all had a great weekend and you're keeping well. It's pretty cold, but I think it's also creates a lovely atmosphere to take your nice woolies and more nice blankets and cuddle up and have meditation. So it's perfect weather for meditation too. So this evening, we're going to continue with our course. And I think I just want to go into a little bit of a recap of what we had done last week. So can any of you remember? Please feel free to mute yourself or write in the chat anything from last week that you experimented with, that you practiced, that you remembered, that left an impression on you. It would be nice to get a little bit of feedback from you. So please feel free to unmute yourself, or you can even write it in the chat. It would be nice just to get a bit of input from you before we continue. Anyone? Don't be shy. Okay, great. There's one or two in the chat. I think, no, I remembered that I feel because of the way I think. Great, Reshma. That's an important lesson to remember and to master, because once you master that, you master your life, basically. You will never be victim to situations and people with your emotions, but that's a very important lesson. Trema, you missed Thursday's evening session, no problem, but you did practice the SOS method. That's great. And it's such a important practice as well, because I can only change my pattern of thought when I begin to pause. And in that moment of pause, then I can redirect my thinking. Otherwise, I end up just spinning the same wheel, you know, like a hamster in the wheel. We just end up going round and round in circles. Yeah. Anyone else would like to share?
I'd like to share just to remember that we are soul and not the labels and the titles and the masks that we wear throughout the day.
Right, right. Yeah, that is critical, because only when we remember that I am a soul can it shift us from ordinary thinking to elevated thinking. And of course, the way I think will result in the way I feel. So that's also a very important lesson. And remembering I'm a soul and holding that awareness then also helps me then to live from the inside out and not let the outside dictate my inner world, but me beginning to define and create my inner world. Okay, great. So thank you. If anyone else has some input, please feel free to add it into the chat. It's nice to see what touched you and what you connected with. So just looking at some of the key points that I wanted to highlight this evening from last week's session. One is we spoke about the 5 steps to meditate. And to reiterate this, firstly is learn to relax the body. And the easiest method to relax the body is to deep breathing and becoming aware and releasing your muscles. Second step is begin to become aware of your thinking and become the observer of your thoughts. Third step is release yourself from the influence of those thoughts. So as I watch my thoughts, I let go of my thoughts. I don't hang on to my thoughts. I don't analyze my thoughts. I don't try to process my thoughts. I just watch my thoughts and let them float away. And then the fourth step is I redirect my thinking in the direction that I want to, so that then I can then remain absorbed in the thoughts that I want to stay focused on. So those are the 5 steps to meditate. 5 types of thoughts. Anyone can remember what are the 5 types of thoughts? So we have positive and we have negative. Then the third one we have is mundane or functional thinking, the day-to-day thinking that we engage in. The fourth one that we have is then waste thoughts. Those are the repetitive thoughts. Those are the thoughts that are associated with worry and thinking of the past, etc. Waste thoughts, not getting me anywhere. But the fifth and most elevated is elevated type of thinking. And meditation is about raising my consciousness so that I have elevated thoughts and I don't get caught up in ordinary thinking or wasteful thinking. And many times I've found that my mundane thinking can end up being my wasteful thinking as well. Because I know I have a task to do, and as I keep repeating that in my mind, it becomes waste. It just wastes my energy. Then we practice the SOS method: stop, take a pause, observe my thoughts, and then redirect my thoughts, and then discovering my true identity, that I'm a soul, and beginning to rediscover the innate self versus the acquired self. You know, the whole me diagram that we did. I'm not the labels, I'm not the roles, I'm not my profession, I'm not my gender, I'm not my race, I'm not my religion. These are all labels that I wear, but that I'm an innate being, a life force within. And then we looked at the characteristics of the soul. The soul is light, the soul is energy, the soul is eternal. And then we looked at the innate qualities of the soul, that the soul is peace, love, purity, power, and bliss. So these were just some of the brief recap of what we covered last week. And now I want to take you into a meditation so that which we explored last week, we go into an experience of that again. Okay, so like before, just sit, relax, and we'll go into a meditation experience, which I will play for you.
Om Shanti. I sit quietly. I turn inwards. I visualize the point of light, the source of energy that I am. I am located in the center of my forehead. I am a being of light. In this awareness, rays of light extend into my physical body, and the light soothes and heals and energizes my entire physical system. The body becomes calm and relaxes. All the tension melts away, and the body becomes quiet and peaceful. And now my mind becomes free to go into the depth of the inner being. Already, the speed of my thoughts has slowed down. And now I choose not to let my thoughts be distracted by the physical body, not to look at the scenes outside, nor to listen to the sounds outside, but to focus on that which is within my own inner being. I can feel peace within myself. I discover I am peace. Peace isn't something outside of me. Peace is within me. I can savor the sweetness of the feeling of peace. Peace is my own natural quality. This is how I used to be. And now that I know this, I am this. And I can be this whenever I choose. In this awareness of peace, the vibrations of peace extend into my entire physical system. And my body returns to a state of harmony, a state of good health. The vibrations of peace spread out into the room, and from this room out into the world. And with every thought of peace, I make a contribution towards peace in the world. Om Shanti.
often when you would come to the Brahma Kumaris, you will hear this expression, Om Shanti. And Om means I am that eternal being, the soul, that light. And Shanti means that my original quality, my true nature is that of peace. And there's a beautiful story that is sometimes shared of a queen who had a very precious necklace and then she lost it. And she was very, very upset because she lost it. And she turned the entire kingdom upside down searching for that necklace. And after a long search, she found it. And do you know where she found it? Right around her own neck. And I think peace is a bit like that. And love is a bit like that, that we keep searching for it out there, that it's somewhere there in some special destination, in some special person, in some special job or some special whatever. We keep thinking it's out there, and that's why we keep searching. But the process of meditation and becoming awakened to the inner self is the recognition that that peace that I'm seeking for, that love that I'm seeking for, it lies within me. And so the art of meditation is learning to turn inwards and reconnecting with that essence that I am. I always was this. I am this. This is my natural state of being. And it's about me returning to my natural state of being. So today's lesson, we're going to learn a little bit more about how we move away from this natural state of being. And in order to learn this, the first thing we're going to explore is really understanding the faculties of the soul. Now, think about the human body. And it's one body, but to make it function, it has different faculties or different organs. We have the brain, we have the senses, the eyes, the nose, the ears. We have the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the intestinal systems, all of that is what makes the human body function. And that makes me move and engage and operate in the physical world. So in the same way, the soul has certain faculties. And these faculties of the soul is what helps the soul to give expression to its energy, to also engage and function in the world in a way. So although these are separated as three, but they work very much as a whole, integrally. And it's just for the sake of explanation that it's been shown as three different aspects, but I will show you how they flow and how one leads to the other. So the first thing is the mind. And this is an important element because so often we have confused the brain with the mind. But the mind is a capability of faculty within the soul. The brain is just the physical organ that begins to express that thought. But the mind is that ability in the soul to create thoughts. And as we said, thoughts play such a key, important role because it's my thoughts that creates my perception of my world and ultimately my experience of the world. So everything that happens outside of me, all the stimulation that I get around me, etc., I recreate all of that within me as thoughts. And that's the capability within the soul of the mind. So it's the faculty of creation through which we create our thoughts, which then stimulate or trigger feelings and emotions. and judgments and decisions and actions. So first it starts in the mind in terms of the creation of thoughts. And the second faculty in the soul is the intellect. Now, the intellect sometimes, because we're using this word in English, we sometimes confuse it with intelligence. But intellect means more than just intelligence. I'm going to use a Hindi word which sort of gives a more fuller meaning of this, and that's buddhi. And so the function of this buddhi or the intellect is about how I begin to filter my thoughts, so that I lead to certain aspects of discernment and decision making. And I begin to judge from that right and wrong. It's the buddhi that has this wisdom that can distinguish, filter, make choices and decisions. And ultimately, it is also the buddhi that is the seat of the conscience within the soul. So we are all brought up with that, internal compass of knowing what is right and wrong. And then the third faculty that we see here within the soul is another Hindi word which we call sanskaras. And sanskaras are really the impressions that we all hold within ourselves. Every action that we perform, whether it is a physical action, or whether it's words that we speak, or ultimately every experience, every action leads to an experience, and every experience that we have creates a memory, and that memory holds an experience which leaves an impression within me. And so it's like an amazing archive system that we have within us, that we have all of these memories stored within us. And so these memories then become the basis then also which triggers further thought and triggers the way I respond and I engage with the world around me. So now I'm going to show you these three faculties functioning in a slightly different format, step by step, so you can understand it easier. What happens is that we all are creatures of habit. You agree with me? From the time we wake up in the morning till the time we sleep, it's like we're operating from a particular habit. And these habits are stored in the soul, in the sanskaras, in a way. And unless we become aware of our habits, only then can we shift and change them. When we operating from habits, it's like we're operating unconsciously. You're not thinking about, oh, I need to brush my teeth in the morning, or or when you're driving, you're not thinking, oh, I have to push my gear like this and like that. Once the habit is formed, it's automatic, it's natural. There's no conscious thinking in there. And so most of our life, in a way, we living through these habits that we have formulated. And because we're living the same set of habits over and over again, we tend to have the same experiences over and over again. And so if we want to change our life's experience, we have to become aware of our habits and begin to shift them. So I want to take you through a step-by-step process just to help you understand of how habits are created. Now we have the outer world. The outer world is constantly stimulating me. Agree? I'm getting so much of information from my outer world. whether it's my education, my family, the media, culture, religion, the politics of the day, whatever. Constantly, I'm bombarded with information and stimulation. And so my senses are bombarded with this. I see this. I smell what's happening around me in the world. I hear things. There's conversations that we engage in. And there's this soup of ideas and opinions from the outside world that I'm constantly being bombarded with. Now, what happens is to understand that how I begin to integrate the influence of the outer world into my inner world, into the world of the soul. So what happens is from the stimulation, so whether I see things, I hear things, I taste things, or whatever the case may be, the first thing that it does is that, oopsie, I jumped a bit. The first thing it creates is it creates thoughts in my mind. Okay, so I translate the stimulation of the outer world into my inner world by creating a thought in the mind. Now, those thoughts that I create, the way I create them has an impact on the way I feel. So there are three things that we have to be very conscious of. Number one is the quality of my thoughts. And we spoke about that last week. You know, what is the quality of my thoughts? Are my thoughts just repetitive waste thoughts? Thoughts stuck in the why and the how and the what? Or thoughts that are talking about it's not possible, it's not going to work, this is so bad, negative thoughts? Or are they positive thoughts? So what is the quality of the thoughts in my mind? Because that's going to influence how I feel. Second thing is the speed of my thoughts. And here again, you know, think about it. When I'm agitated, I tend to think very fast. And in today's world, in a way, we are actually, in some ways, encouraged to think fast, give immediate responses. You know, in the past, you'll get a letter from a friend, let's say snail mail, and it will take a few weeks to get to you. You will respond. It will take a few weeks to get it to them. The pace of our communication was a lot slower. These days, everything is instant, and it's great. I hear from my friend immediately once they think of me, but then there's also an expectation of responding immediately as well. So we tend to find that there's a lot of speed in our mind. You know, it's a very busy mind, a very noisy mind that we have. And so that creates feelings of fatigue and sometimes agitation as well. And then the third thing is the quantity of thoughts. Again, the speed of thoughts, quantity of thoughts as well. We have a lot of thoughts in our mind. Scientists say we have up to 50 to 60,000 thoughts in our mind. I don't know how they calculate it, but I take their word for it. Most of the thoughts that we have, we're not even aware of it. So the mind has all these thoughts. And then the mind the thoughts then go through a process of filtering through the intellect or the buddhi. And as I said, the buddhi acts as a filter. So which of these thoughts are useful thoughts? Which of these thoughts are helpful thoughts? Which of these thoughts are aligned with my inner wisdom, my inner values? Which ones are in alignment with my conscience? So based on the faculty of the buddhi, how the buddhi filters these thoughts, then it leads to an action. And once it leads to an action, then every action then leaves an impression within me. And that is the sanskaras, the impressions of actions. Now, think about it. You know, the first impression that is created within me is the impression I do something, and the first thing it does is that it creates a memory. Agree? Now, does things just, when I remember something, do I only just remember the event, or what else do I remember with it? Just think about it. What else do I remember? I remember eating an ice cream as a child. What do I remember? I remember the color of the ice cream. I remember the moment I ate that ice cream. But what else do I remember? I would also remember how I felt. So memories are not just memories per se of events. Exactly, Pamela. Memories are not just memories in a sense of events that we go through, but memories are also linked to our emotions and our feelings. And that's why memories hold such a strong space within us. Now, based on the memory that is left within me, it would then lead to whether I will act on this again or I won't act on this again. And based on that, it can begin to leave a deeper impression. Now, I want to explain this using an example. And the example I'm going to use is, I'm going to use the example of smoking. Why I like using the example of smoking? Because smoking is a habit that we form. There's no baby that's born smoking, okay? So it's not our natural trait. It's something that we develop as a habit. Well, some of us develop as a habit. So in my outer world, I am a teenager. And in my outer world, I'm with a group of friends. And at this point in time, my need as a teenager is to really feel I have friends, I have fit in, I'm seen as one of the gang, and there's a feeling of belonging and acceptance because I'm a little bit vulnerable at this point in time. So I'm with a group of friends, and out comes a pack of cigarettes that goes around the group. So the mind creates the thought, gosh, I should maybe try a cigarette so that I'm part of this group. But the intellect will then say, no, you know this is not healthy for you. Or you know your dad's going to skin you alive if he finds out you smoked. So there's an internal battle between the mind creating the thought of wanting to perform this act of smoking, and the intellect saying, no, you shouldn't, and giving you many reasons. You know that it's not healthy, that smoking can lead to cancer, that you'll get into trouble with your parents and all of that. So there's this internal battle going on. But perhaps at this point in time, my need to fit in, to have a sense of belonging, and to really win the admiration of my friends is greater than my reasoning that this is not the right thing to do. So in spite of my intellect telling me otherwise, I still go ahead and I smoke. I perform the act of smoking. And so what is left when I perform that action of smoking? What is the impression that's left in me? I may not have enjoyed the taste or the sensation of smoking, but my friends go, yay, you did it. You're one of the gang. a sense of acceptance and admiration and all of those things. So the memory is of the response of my friends, but also it made me feel so good. It made me feel so accepted. It made me feel so part of the group. And so that's the memory that's left inside. Now what happens is another occasion happens and the pack of cigarette comes. So there's a stimuli from my outer world that creates a thought in my mind. But now what happens as well is that because I have a memory of what it felt like the last time I smoked a cigarette, there's a trigger from my sanskaras that also substantiates this thought. It says, remember last time how everyone admired you, how you felt so good, how you had a sense of acceptance, etc. So now you have an outer voice and you have an inner voice. And so what happens? It's almost like the reasoning of the intellect is now facing a greater challenge to try and convince you. And so the battle still will happen. It's not healthy for you. You could get into trouble. But it's like you almost say, it doesn't matter. I got away with it last time. I'll get away with it again. And so you repeat the action. And so each time the stimulation comes from the outer and your inner stimulation comes. And so then what happens is you keep repeating the action. And every time you're repeating the action, it's like a groove is being cut into your sanskaras. And that groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper. To the point that what happens is a thought occurs in the mind, and then you actually bypass the intellect and you just operate from your sanskaras, the memories of the past, and it feeds your mind as well. So your reasoning faculty, you begin to take adherence of it. You listen to it less and less and less. And as you listen to your buddhi, your intellect, less and less and less, what happens? You start acting more and more from your sanskaras. And so then what happens is from memories, it eventually becomes habits. When I stop reasoning, then it becomes a habit and I automatically function. So mind, sanskaras, and mind and sanskaras. And so when that begins to happen, then deeper than it just being a habit is then it becomes a belief. So I begin to believe, and I've often found this happening when I've, chatted with friends that are smokers that say, smoking relaxes me. Now, it's not actually that it's relaxing you, but that you have associated the act of smoking with a sensation of relaxation. And so that's what happens. It becomes a belief. And when things become a belief, it becomes very deep rooted. So sanskaras can also be seen as what we sometimes call the subconscious mind, because it fuels certain thoughts that are very deeply connected with a belief system that you have acquired because of various experiences. And those belief systems then also becomes your attitude towards things, etc. So why do we want to understand this? Is because what we're wanting to do is to recognize that this is the process that is occurring within us every day, that we tending to live just from our memories and habits and belief systems. And the spiritual journey is about awakening this intellect again. awakening this buddhi again. Because once the buddhi awakens, then it's about living consciously and not living just from habit. Because when I live consciously, then I'm making choices. And when I'm making choices consciously, then I feel empowered. But when I'm living from habit only, it's a very disempowered way of living because there's no choice in habit. When I'm living from habit, I'm just living like enslaved by that habit. So it's about awakening to my choices and living from a place of choice, being more conscious of the way I live. So in meditation, what are we wanting to do? We're wanting to actually recognize that, yes, we have the mind, the intellect, and the sanskaras, but I want to connect with that inner core of the self, the soul that I am with those core qualities of love, peace, purity, power, and bliss. I want to connect with that essence of who I am, awaken it, reconnect with it, emerge its experience in a very living way, awaken that energy within me so that from that core, it begins to influence how I use my mind, how I use my buddhi, and which sanskaras I give power to. So again, inside out, coming back to the core and letting the core begin to influence how I use my thoughts, my intellect, and my sanskaras. So it's really about looking at the center core of the self and understanding that the more power I give through my thoughts and that to my center core, the more I begin to empower it and give it that energy that will help me to function in a way. So I want to now just pause for a moment because it's a lot of information that I have shared. And if any of you have any questions, and then I will share one or two other examples before we take it into a meditation. So if any one of you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. And otherwise, even write it in the chat. That's great. Oopsie, sorry, not that one. Very good question, P. Can sanskars be positive and negative? Yes. When I have had positive influences, when I have acted in a positive sense, then yes, those memories will trigger a positive response. So yes, sanskars can be positive and negative in a way. As I shared last week, that when we look at the core qualities of the soul, and I'm just going to go to that slide again. The original qualities of the core self is peace, love, purity, power, and bliss. Now, these qualities, in a way, when I use them according to the situation, according to the time, according to the environment, etc., they become the virtues and values that I begin to express. So, for example, if I take love, an expression of love is kindness. Okay. If I take power, an expression of power is courage in a way. So all of these positive values and qualities that I begin to give expression to, they also become my sanskaras, which then I draw from when I'm acting. So when the positive sanskaras are based on original qualities, and of course, negative sanskaras are based on external acquired influences. Okay. Any other question that there may be? Yeah. Is sanskaras related to karma then? Yes, it is. Karma is a whole new lesson on its own that we will take up at the later stage. But yes, my sanskaras, in a way that the impressions I'm carrying within me influences the quality of my actions. And my actions then create a repercussion. There's a consequence for every action that I perform. And that's what karma is all about. So my consequence could be in terms of my relationships, but my consequence is also in terms of my own internal experience as well, and my own state of mind and being. So yes, my sanskaras is directly related to my experiences that I have, and the consequence of my behavior that's also connected with that. Yeah. Sometimes we describe Raja Yoga meditation as the yoga of the intellect, Buddhi Yoga. And it's because one of the things that has happened is when we operate from our habits and purely from our sanskaras, and it's like the power of the intellect reduces. And therefore, what we're aiming to do is also awaken that intellect. Think of the intellect like, or the buddhi like a muscle. And if you're not exercising that muscle, then what would happen? It's like the muscle weakens. It doesn't have strength anymore. So even this practice of SOS, pause, become still, become aware. As I'm becoming aware, it's like my buddhi, my intellect is then deciding, do I want to continue on this trend of thought, or do I want to shift the thought? So that's the intellect coming into action. So observation then gives me a possibility for choice. And that choice then is when I'm exercising the power of the intellect again. I'm awakening my conscience, I'm awakening my innate wisdom, and that leads to then my next thought, but also influences my next action. So that's why Raja Yoga is often referred to as also the yoga of the intellect. It's about strengthening that filter again, strengthening the muscle of the intellect again. Okay. And ultimately, what we want to do is we don't want to live from sanskaras, but we want to live from our core self. That's what we want to do. That everything I do is coming from that core self. I'm in total alignment. You know, it's like I'm at peace when my conscience is in alignment with my deeper true nature. I'm peaceless because my conscience is not in alignment. So to feel that peace, to connect with peace, I need that internal alignment where the mind, the intellect, and the sanskaras are in alignment with the core self. That's when I feel complete and I feel anchored in my own truth in that regard. Okay. Okay, so I'd like to let you all reflect on one or two questions that would be good for you all to take as homework. And those reflective exercise for today is, do I have a habit that sabotages or limits me? That's a key question to ask. Do I have a habit that sabotages or limits me. If I didn't have this habit, there would be so much more that I would do. And think about it like one that I know that many people struggle with is getting distracted or procrastinating or avoiding or those kind of things. Is there any kind of habit like that that I have that sabotages or limits me? And what thoughts can I focus on to start to shift or dissolve this habit? So think about it when that thought comes up, like do it later, you don't have to do it now. What thought can I start working on that that can help me shift from that limiting habit? And it could be to say, oh, well, now is the best moment. Later, there could be something else better to do, or you can relax later, but now just get on with this because, you have the energy for it right now. So you look at your own life and you look at your own self and you watch and see which habit sabotages you and what would you like to do to shift that habit. So what thought can you bring into your practice that will help you shift that habit? Okay, so do this exercise and continue as well with those other two reflective exercises we had. I hope some of you all tried it out, practicing of soul consciousness, seeing others as a soul, and also observing the quality of your thoughts. So just continue with these reflective exercises during your day. So if there's no more questions, then I'd like to complete this evening session with another meditation. Okay. If you do have a question, please feel free to just write it in the chat, and after the meditation, I'll take it up.
Once again, withdraw your attention from everything around you. Bring yourself back to a point of self-awareness and soul consciousness. Now explore the faculties of your consciousness to see how they work together. Create a simple thought in your mind. Just one thought. Now focus on that thought. Concentrate on that thought. And then use your intellect to assess the quality of that thought. Is it negative or positive? Is it right or is it wrong? Discern the quality of that thought. Is that thought a waste of your energy? Is that thought a necessary thought? And then decide. If the thought is not a good thought, drop it or consciously destroy it. And then create a better thought. In this way, you consciously exercise full control over your mind and your intellect.
So that was a short little exercise just for us to learn how to become aware of our thoughts, discern the quality of our thoughts, and then decide what we want to do with that thought. And I think one of the most important elements within our journey spiritually is to learn how to drop that thought. Because many times I notice in myself, and maybe you can identify with it, that we love going into the analysis of it, why, what, how, and all of that. But that analysis of it very often is what entangles us in the thoughts. And that thought then leads to that level of emotion. So we can spiral down with it the more we analyze it. And I think it was Ivan who asked last week, in a way, about overthinking. And overthinking is related to this. It's the habit of analyzing too much. There's a nice expression that goes that too much of analysis leads to paralysis. And it's true. So recognize it, see it for what it is, and then to learn to drop it, putting a full stop to it, and refocusing my thoughts again. So it's a very important practice, and that is how we strengthen the muscle of the intellect, the buddhi, is by applying the decisions that I make on the basis of the intellect. Okay. So what's the difference between open eye meditation and closed eyes meditation? A very good question. Thank you, Gail. When we close our eyes, yes, it's easy for us to block out the world and live in our own inner world. But in Raj Yoga meditation, we encourage people to keep your eyes open. Two things. One is that you tend to fall off to sleep when your eyes are closed, because that's what you do when your eyes are closed. So it in some ways stimulates a greater level of concentration when your eyes are open. Number two, we also want to give ourselves a training. And the training that we want to give ourselves is that my inner world is based on the quality of my thinking. So I could be anywhere, but based on how I'm thinking, that's what I'm going to feel. So I can only do that when I learn to practice, in a sense that keep my eyes open, and no matter what I'm seeing, I'm not letting what I'm seeing define what I'm feeling. I'm letting myself be here, stay focused on the quality of my thinking, and let that define the quality of my experience. And so that's the second reason why we meditate with eyes open. And then a third reason as well is really a practice at advanced stages in meditation. We actually share a spiritual vision with each other of soul consciousness and a transfer of energy between us. So with open eyes, it's a transference of positive spiritual energy through the eyes. Okay, so that's why we meditate with the eyes open. Okay, great. So thank you all. And let's just take a moment of just reflecting a little bit, Taking a pause, just settling in, breathing in deeply. There's been a lot that we heard today. But just come back to the center, reminding yourself that I am consciousness, I am a soul, that my inner being, my true nature is of love, of peace, purity, power, and bliss. And as I allow this awareness of my inner being, I give myself the space to feel that stillness of my inner being, the peace that I am. And to know that as everything around me changes, this eternal truth, that I am light, I am peace, I am love, remains a constant within me. And this anchors me, this strengthens me, and allows me to feel light and free. I am soul. I am light. I am peace. Om Shanti. Thank you. So thank you all, and keep up the practice of the meditation in the mornings. And if any of you would like to, and who haven't subscribed yet, and you would like to get a meditation, I'm putting my number on the chat for everyone, so you could easily just let me know that you want to get the morning meditations. But do start your day with that, and we'll meet again on Thursday. Thank you. Om Shanti and good night.
Om Shanti.
Thanks.
Om Shanti.
Thank you.